has the gaming industry lost its creativity with oversaturation and the lack of new ideas?
I will challenge you with this. Is the problem that they have lost its creativity, or is the problem that the saturation of new ideas inherently makes creativity that much harder because you have that many more people coming up with good ideas?
So I think I'm going to shout out our buddies here from the PlayStation Collectors Podcast, because I watched the episode that they just put out at the time of us doing this with Mystic Ryan. They were talking about, just how crucial, some of these consoles were and how just incredible these games were, and just how nothing really in modern times is holding up. And it's not like it was. Like, you have this oversaturation of everybody wanting to put out the next live service game that becomes the live service game. Like, you have so many people trying to put out these games that are just monetized.
So let's think of it this way. We're going to take a trip back in time on this one. Who invented the light bulb?
Thomas Edison.
Okay, Edison invented the light bulb, so he probably made the first light bulb, yeah?
I would assume.
And he
or at least he had a hand in it.
Yeah, and he probably helped sell the first light bulbs.
Probably.
So over the past 110 years, how many different companies do you think are making light bulbs?
Probably a shit ton.
Right. So now let's apply that concept to gaming. If you see a game that's successful and it's making a lot of money and you want to make a lot of money, do you follow that model and then try to find ways to make it your own? How many different ways can you do a first-person shooter?
Not many.
Right. It's all going to boil down to the same mechanics, the same principles, with the only thing that you can tailor of that is the story and the backing content.
The characters, but also, the gameplay mechanics do play a role in that. I'm sure there are, I'm not well read into gameplay mechanics of first-person shooters.
I'm pretty sure everybody's just running Unreal Engine and calling it a fucking day.
But I remember back when I was playing, these multiplayer games, when I was playing Halo 2. The jump from Halo 2 to Halo 3 was pretty big, because then Halo 3 introduced, the bubble shield and all of those little power-ups that you get. So, that changed the way that you played Halo.
Well, yeah, because it was a new concept to the game.
And then for the jump from Halo 3 to Halo 4 is Halo 3, you had what that was, and then Halo 4 you had sprinting and the power-ups there, and then you had the DMR and some other weapons that were different. So, it's the same concept in the game, but it had different little mechanics that made it different.
Well, are they mechanics or are they features?
Well, I guess it's kind of the same.
Like mechanics, I think of the way that it moves.
Well, it changes the way that you have to think, in terms of, if I'm shooting at this guy across the map, if I shoot rockets at him, he's just going to throw up his bubble shield, and then I just wasted this and blah. It changes the way that you play the game.
So that's AI.
What?
What you're talking about is AI, the response that the enemy would have.
Well, if I'm playing multiplayer, it's a person.
Oh, you were talking about just figuratively what the best play would be.
Yeah, because that's what these live service games are. It's multiplayer games.
But when you talk about mechanics, I think of the way that the character moves through the worlds, or the way that you can aim, the handling of stuff like that.
Well,
it's
the just movement. Things that will affect the gameplay. And affect the outcome of the gameplay.
And to kind of really support your case here, there are currently 52 games using Unreal Engine 5 for their movement engine.
Well, yeah,
So it's literally
that's
the
like
same
the main
foundation.
Yeah,
What the?
but it's not the thing that you make the game on. It's the things that you incorporate into the game that are going to make, because you have. I'm trying to think. Like,
I agree, but I think in terms of PlayStation 1 times, if you played Siphon Filter versus Metal Gear Solid, it felt like two different games. Like, they did not move the same. They had they both could go forward, backward, side to side, all that crap, strafing.
It was still like the stealth game.
Right, but they definitely moved different, and you had to kind of adapt to that nuance as you played through it and got accustomed to it. With this, it's like, okay, we'll just throw this library into every frickin' thing that needs a person to move, and suddenly I think you lose a little bit of that charm that's...
Well, I mean, you have, like, the gunplay and the responsiveness and the ADS, and then you have, like, the other, like, the balance of the weapons and, the frequency at which the power weapons spawn and the frequency that you can use the special techniques that your character has, whether it's a super jump, whether it's a jetpack, whether it's a super strafe, whether it's a special melee weapon, like the cooldown period for all that stuff. Like, it's all of that sort of stuff. And like, they have some FPSs that are like super fast paced, where like you move super fast, that you have to have fast response time and this and that. And then you have these slower ones where you have to really think methodically, and you're like, okay, we've got rockets. Someone picked up rockets. All right, we have to keep in mind that it's a 5-minute timer until the next one spawns. So when 5 minutes, like, keep a mental note of 5 minutes, so that way when that time's up, we're the ones that get them. And sniper rifles, they spawn every 10 minutes or, whatever that. And like, you're playing across the map, and you only have certain grenades, and there's spawn points for your grenades, and this and that. Like, and then with the BR, you have these 4-shot bursts that are, if they're headshots, you'll kill them, and this and that. Like, there's these slow, methodical gameplay FPSs, and then there's the fast-paced, just
now
quick thinking,
real quick,
types of games.
Out of all those details that you just told me, which one is going to make you buy that game?
I think it all depends on the style of game that you want, but again, you have to think of what's the popularity of the game. Say it's the next iteration of Halo.
That's a totally different thing.
But then you have, like, there's so many FPS games, though.
The bigger point that I'm trying to get at with this is many, many more people are involved in coding now, so they're going to work in the gaming industry, and they're going to come up with ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people come up with similar ideas, whether they're like, they're one's in Maryland, one's in California, and they both come up with the same idea, and it's like, well, shit.
Well, yeah.
My biggest point is that it's the big picture of these games where everything is getting lost because there's not enough differentiation.
Well, the problem that we're having is everybody's just trying to monetize the game. It's like, how can we bleed our customers dry with microtransactions and battle passes and keep them playing for as long as humanly possible? And again, like, I think at some point that you can't monetize it anymore, because you're gonna get to the point where it's like people just don't want to play that game anymore, because all these people that used to play this game have now migrated to this game for some reason, because maybe it has a better esports support, or maybe it's just what people want to play.
Well, and that's indicative of a bigger problem in today's world, I think, as well. Outside of Apple, name one company that isn't trying to just get rich quick.
That's the other thing too, is like, you have these development studios who have shareholders. What the fuck do they want to do? They want to make money. So they don't give a shit about giving the player the best experience.
Well, most of the
They
shareholders...
just want the player to spend all of their money on their product.
Sure, but most of the shareholders typically don't really get that involved in...
No, but they
product.
just look at them and they're like, make us money.
Well, yeah.
And when the people are like, well, how do we make these shareholders money? Well, we have to have as many things for people to purchase as humanly possible, which means we have to structure our game in a way that gives you just enough to get you on the hook, but not enough to make you not want to buy. So, like, I want you to play the game and get invested in the game, but I want you to be forced, or want you to feel like if you're spending your money on this game that you're getting an advantage, or you're looking cooler than the other people, or
residual income.
Yeah.
No, I get it. It's residual income. The first to do it was the insurance industry,
which is what I think is hurting the gaming industry the most, is even single-player games that should be just single-player experiences and nothing else. They are still trying to incorporate the monetization into these single-player games just for people who enjoy those games. Like Need for Speed Payback. I love the Need for Speed games. Like, I've always played them. I've always liked and enjoyed playing those games. Payback was the first one where I got annoyed because they pushed these little loot boxes in the game, and they pushed it to enough to where it was at the bottom of your screen, and if you played enough, you would get these things, or you can buy them and it helps you advance faster and this and that, or it gets you a cooler skin for your car or different modifications for your car. And it's just like, what do I need this for? Why are you pushing this so hard on me to buy these microtransactions in a completely single player game for the most part? I mean, you can race other people online, but still, like,
to embellish the game.
Hello, Mama Mel's. How's it going? Thanks for joining us here.
So, like, think of it this way. In software, and actually it is a bigger thing because it is really a software thing, not just a game thing. Because there's other software out there other than games.
Well, yeah.
Software, when you think of, like, Nintendo 64 specifically, you had a defined scope in mind for this game. Like, you had your ideas, you had the features, you had everything planned out, you had the storyboard, you knew where you were going to build it, and then once you delivered it, i.e. printed it to cartridge, that was it.
Yes.
It was complete, it was done.
Mm-hmm.
Today's world, you fast forward, software is a living, breathing thing where it starts small and expands and expands and expands until it kind of, comes to like a point where you can say, okay, this is mature, and it gets released. And then you continue to expand and expand and expand and start, just rapidly including new content, because you don't have to print it to cart anymore or print it to disk. You can continuously deliver it, like in the case of Fortnite or Call of Duty or really anything on a modern console.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how do we continue to do this never-ending life cycle of development?
So that's a completely different way that, like, that's a more acceptable way. That was weird. That's never happened before. All right, can you hear us now?
That's God telling you to shut the fuck up.
Well. All right.
Is there sound now?
Confirm that you can hear us now.
Or do I need to go ask Lance?
You're back. Perfect. What was the last thing you heard us say?
Where were we? We should probably just get off that topic.
Well, what were we? What were you saying there?
My point was that software as a service is an indefinite loop where people are always going to be paying until they just get tired of it.
So
but it's needed to have that continuous delivery. Like, you can't continuously develop and just go on this
No,
game
but
if people aren't paying.
no, but that's not like you shouldn't be worried about that. You should be worried about your game being something that people want to play and keep playing.
Correct. But
that's and something where it's going to, be an incredible story and something that you could also play with your friends, and where it's something that also you can enjoy multiple times versus just playing it one time and being like, well, that's it.
In 1996, a video game was a product. Today, it's a service.
Yes, and that's the problem.
Yes.
I think, because everybody wants to have the next big thing, and they're just trying to have the next big thing, which in turn is a problem.
If you wind up with too many products, you can always clean them out one day. If you wind up with too many services...
But it takes... the thing about it is, I feel the issue with... You have to allocate money and support to work on your live service games. And then you have to have money and stuff going into your massive, single player, AAA titles. So, I believe that live service has a place in the gaming industry. For sure it does. But I think that it should stop being everybody's focus and let the people that are succeeding in the live service realm, let them do what they're going to do, because you're never going to make another Fortnite.
So those game developers in both those situations look like the same person, right? They have the same skills.
I mean,
to produce both games.
Basically, yes.
Whichever.
Yeah.
So if you as a developer are sitting there saying, who do I want to work for? Are you going to pick the company that's developing a game, that's going to release it and make money for a finite amount of time and be able to pay your paycheck for the next 6 years? Or are you going to pick the company that's going to offer you commissions, that's going to offer you, that's making money continuously with no end in sight and allows you to explore new ideas?
So it depends on who I am as a person and my goals in working in the gaming industry. Because if I want to just make as much money as humanly possible, yeah, I'm going to go with the people that are making these live service bangers. But if I want to really put my mark on the industry and become this, make a name for myself, and that guy makes absolute hits. I love his stuff, and he has made something that has really just made me play a game that I just can't even fathom. You know what I mean? And to make something, like Guerrilla Games when they did Horizon Zero Dawn. That was a new IP. That was a complete gamble. Either some people are going to love it or people are going to hate it.
So I'm going to make a crazy point quick.
And it was a game that did super well.
Yeah,
because it was a unique idea. The story was absolutely incredible. The gameplay was incredible.
Out of everything,
and it had a character that you could attach yourself to and relate to and follow and.
Well, and that's the story. That's
exactly.
That's the root of this kind of stuff.
Yes.
Out of all the games that you've played over the years,
mm-hmm.
Name one developer.
Well, I mean, you've got Capcom for...
Nope, that's not a developer. That's a development company.
Well, yes. But, I mean, that's not my
I
expertise.
Can't either. I can't either.
That's not how I play games, though.
Here's my point. Not a single person can name a person that worked on those games.
But I also haven't played any of these, just absolute banger, incredible, super popular games that are just, monuments in their own right.
The point that I'm making is that nobody gives a shit. Like nobody working in it gives a shit about the novelty on it.
I don't think that's true. I mean, I think in the world that we live in now with games and developers and people working on games, if you're making games like God of War and Bloodborne and Final Fantasy 16 and Baldur's Gate 3 and The Witcher, like people that have played those games and put them in such high regard, they look into, like, it's easy to find who the developer was, who worked on these games, who was responsible for writing the story, who was responsible for voicing these characters that we love, and games, and then games like
the voice actors. That's a totally different thing.
Yes, but they have awards now, like for the Game Awards, for like the development teams on these games, and the main people who worked on like a lot of this stuff, and like who were at the forefront of just like everything. So I think it goes a little deeper than, you know, what you see versus what the general people see in terms of the people that are actually like playing these games and like being moved by these games.
Maybe.
I think it's a little deeper than you think it goes. But I think like that the gaming industry is in deep trouble right now because there's like a lot of people are focused on, you know, these live service games, monetization, blah, blah, blah. But you have these outliers, and also you have indie companies that are making these incredible games. Like, you have so many indie games that are hits right off the bat because it's just what these developers used to be in their infancy of, we want to make this game and we want to spread this message and we want to spread this story and share these characters and, you know, this and that. Like, that's what indie developers are doing now, is creating games that we used to enjoy, or like we used to enjoy, where we have characters that we can relate to and we can attach to and we can learn about, and a story that we can relate to and we can dive into, and this lore that is never ending, and you can do all of this stuff. Like,
I love it when we get into an argument and we're literally both saying the same damn thing, but you don't get what I'm trying to point out. So you're just like, no. And I'm like, yes, that's right. Yeah, the game industry's screwed, man. I mean, it's money.
It literally just makes everything worse.
Solomon's gold.
It makes everything worse. When the main focus is money, it just makes things worse.